over. We're going to do some Kubernetes stuff. So we have 3 hours to try to get Kubernetes running. Now, this is a thing. So if you're just watching this video, Fridays, I'm going to make a regular stream. And we're going to call it upskilling or power up. And what this is my work allows me to do educational stuff every Friday to keep up. And I just decided to do it live. And there's no requirement that it be related to my immediate job. That's usually how most companies do this. They'll give you some part of Friday, if not all of Friday, off so that you can do this kind of thing. I'm going to check really quick and make sure I don't have any meetings today. Sometimes it's really kind of ironic. Sometimes they will schedule a meeting. Sometimes they will schedule a meeting during your power up time. And I'm like, well, we can't. They'll say, no, we want you to learn this one thing. So we're going to, okay, fine. But that's not the whole point. The whole point of it is that you're free to take your tech skills whatever direction you want to on Friday. And this is the way I did this for 10 years at IBM. It was called Think Friday. It is pretty much standard in the industry. So that's what we're doing. Why do you care? Because we are going to be doing a bunch of stuff. I'm actually going to leave the chat on until somebody abuses it to the point where I have to turn it off. Okay, so I'm not necessarily going to be reading the chat all the time. I'm definitely going to look at the chat. Don't tell your manager you're watching around for the rest of the day. Please don't say that. Unless you're doing something active to do the learning as well. And I'm going to try to stay on topic, of course. These streams will always be, as much as I possibly can, suitable for work. So that's where we are. What is the goal today? So every single time that I do this, I'm going to try to have a goal for the 3 hours, and I'm going to work toward that goal. I may not make it, but I'll tell you the goal at the beginning, and that's going to be a pretty regular thing. So my goal today is to make progress building Kubernetes. And when I say from scratch, somebody's going to pull out the Kelsey Hightower blog. No, not that. From kubeadm. So I think some people would call this building Kubernetes with kubeadm. We are not going to use any cloud services. We are going to use a server that I have over here. And we're going to cut as few corners as possible so that the end result is something that at least to some degree models what I'm using at work, so I have it in my lab. And then probably not this time, but eventually I've already started some of the Ansible scripts. Ansible is a configuration automation tool that runs in Python, but it has its own syntax. And we'll be using that. And the reason for that is it's not giving away any corporate secrets. We are in the middle of re-architecting our Kubernetes clusters. And we need to make our clusters so that they can be spun up quickly, so that we could actually hand over some whatever and allow people to spin up their own Kubernetes clusters. In fact, into 2023, some people in my stream have been so bold as to say that if you're not using Cluster API or KubeSpray or one of these other tools, you're doing it wrong, because you should be able to spin up a cluster anytime and then bring it down. Why would you do that? Because Kubernetes is more and more, in my estimation, like Java. I know that's a weird comparison, but hear me out. Java started out being all things to all people. Write once, run anywhere, which turned out to be a massive lie. And this is what's happening in Kubernetes. Oh, one large orchestration platform to rule them all. Just install this big Kubernetes cluster and it will solve all your problems for all your applications, and everybody can make their own application. So in this, I suppose, comparison, Kubernetes is the equivalent in this comparison to the Java virtual machine. And what turned out to be true, overwhelmingly true, is that there were enough applications that required a specific version of Java with a specific subset of whatever. Even though Java tried to be all things to all people, was one of the reasons it was so bloated and it died. By the way, but Java is very much a dead tech. People are using it for all kinds of things, including for, mobile apps and stuff like that. But Java as an idea, the core ideas, the core dreams behind Java have been very, very decidedly taken down as being absolute crap. And the primary reason for that, at one point we were so crazy, I made another video about this, but at one point we were so crazy, and you gotta understand, I was on the Java train. I was giving conference talks on how to do Java and everything. I mean, I was on it. I was doing, whatever, all my stuff in UML. I mean, I really, 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 really drank the Kool-Aid, whatever. It wasn't Kool-Aid, it was Flavor Aid, apparently. Anyway, I bought into the whole idea, and then we all learned how horrible it was. Now, I personally don't even like object-oriented programming after all the crap we went through with Java. But at one point, I kid you not, you could be running 5 different JVMs on your computer. Well, that's against the entire Java premise. You install one JVM and then everybody just reuses that JVM, right? Wrong. That is not what happened. It was so bad. It was even worse than that, because most of these JVMs, the people that made these applications, this was at IBM, the people that made these applications were so lazy that they decided to install an entire Eclipse framework, Eclipse. If you don't know it, just be glad. And so not only, and by the way, for some reason we didn't learn this lesson, and we've been doing it all over again with Electron and Kubernetes. Let me tell you why. So what happened was, people could turn around, the pointy hair bosses won, because they could get their software fast if somebody could move a few buttons around in Eclipse and get their whatever their application, whether it be Lotus Same Time or Lotus Notes or whatever else, right? And so you get these little teeny tiny applications, relatively, that have an entire Eclipse engine in them, which is running on its own JVM. Some of the most bloated software I have ever encountered in my life, if not the most bloated software I've ever seen, ever. And it was all caused because of a bunch of lies and that engineers were being told to do. And I don't know, I guess the people making the decisions never got the word. And so they would force these people to deliver these applications that were way too big, right? Why did they have to have another JVM in there? Well, not only that, but now they had to have not only a different JVM, they had to have a different Eclipse engine. So at one point at IBM, seriously, I was running 3 or 4 or 5 versions of Eclipse. And if you know Eclipse, you know how fat it is. On my computer, people were having to get extra RAM just to be able to run their chat apps because stuff was so big and bloated and ugly. What does this have to do with Kubernetes? Like, you're seeing Kubernetes on the screen. Why am I ranting about Java and Kubernetes? Because Kubernetes, in very many, very substantial ways, is Java. It's the JVM. It is, if you think of Kubernetes as being sort of like the platform for, or language even, for delivering applications at enterprise scale, then you can kind of think of Kubernetes if you were to take in a whole enterprise, right? That enterprise as being like being a single computer. Then the enterprise has a JVM, and the JVM, would be Kubernetes, and then you would have that one Kubernetes, and then everybody would use that Kubernetes, and people. Somebody's going to say something in the chat because that was never the way Kubernetes was envisioned, but that was the way it was sold to everybody, and that's exactly the same problem with Java. So in 2023, it's now, you should be spinning up your own version of Kubernetes depending on what your needs are. So it's all about multi-cluster, right? Multi-cluster is just a politically correct way of saying a bunch of bloated JVMs all over the place. And I got to tell you, I think that this is one of the reasons that Kubernetes has got a finite lifespan. I do not believe that Kubernetes will be a sustainable technology going forward over the next 10 years. And I'm not the only one. There's a number of other people who have said the same thing. Doesn't matter. Have to know it now because it is the thing to use. I think it's going to get replaced. In case you want to know, I think it's going to get replaced by some form of micro VM architecture and stuff like that. But that we're not anywhere near there yet. So we got to learn how to install Kubernetes. This is why we're learning to install Kubernetes quickly and independently, and even in an automated way. So the cluster API, which hit version 1.0 last year, is one way of spinning up a cluster. You have to have a cluster to make a cluster, and then you can manage your clusters and your nodes and everything through this API. But there are a number of problems with that, and all of the multi-cluster APIs, frankly, all of the spin up a cluster approaches keep forgetting one very core important principle that is coming forward. AI. What does AI need? AI needs GPUs. So there's this huge debate in my community anyway about whether Kubernetes is even a viable option in the AI world. Because it's not really set up to run long jobs and stuff like that. That's more of a batch processing thing. And by the way, our batch infrastructure dwarfs our Kubernetes microservices stuff on a scale of 200, 300, 400. So we're not going to do this today, but eventually in this upskill, power up streaming kind of thing that we do on Fridays, one of them I'm actually going to install PBS, which is the batch processing system that was invented originally at NASA, that's used by a lot of really big companies. And a lot of Silicon Valley companies don't know what it is because they don't do batch processing. But we're definitely going to look at that. I think of Kubernetes as a platform framework. It's just the building blocks to build your own platform. Yes. Have you seen the write-up on Talos, Hartzner? But that's less important. I was a big fan of Talos for a long time, and now I'm not. Here's why. No GPU support. We're done. Look, even if they're not running their main jobs on it, they want to run their jobs to some degree on it. So no, I even though I am still up front and center on the front page of Talos's website, I got to tell you, I have no interest in Talos at all anymore. Until they have GPU support for the latest GPUs or the ability to update the node endpoints to the latest GPUs, I am no longer interested in Talos and Cedero at all. And I have to say that because I was really excited about it, so much so that I interviewed with the CEO and this chief engineer and everybody, and they put my face on their front page, and they still have me saying how much I love their product. And then I started asking questions like, where's your NVIDIA support? Oh, we don't have that. How am I supposed to upgrade the NVIDIA support myself? You can't. You have to do the SSH thing. So there's a very niche need for what Talos and Cedero are offering. And I tried to put a Pixie boot back here and set up Talos over here and try to get my own cluster. Could not do it, mostly because of complications with the hardware and the Pixie boot. Talos doesn't make any sense. The whole point of Talos is that you have a node that's an image and you boot it and that's good. But that doesn't provide any value unless you have a really easy way to update the images, like you're doing network boot. And I spent a lot of time trying to get my Mac Minis to net boot, which they won't do. Not without touching each one. I mean, a net boot that requires you to touch it is absolutely useless to me. So it was either buy a whole bunch of machines that did, touchless net booting, or just give it up. And so I am no longer a fan of. I mean, originally the idea of not having to think about your operating system and let Kubernetes manage your operating system seems really attractive, but it's absolutely the wrong way to go. And I think that the replacement for Kubernetes is going to be the reverse of that. That we're going to get so good with micro VMs and even really minimal hypervisors on hardware that it's going to be easier to spin up a full machine than it is to manage it under Kubernetes. And there's even virtual machine engines, Kubert, that'll run inside of Kubernetes, which is just, come on, that's just a horrible idea. Somebody showcased that at our company the other day, like a month ago or so, and I was just like shaking my head the whole time. I was like, why the hell would we want that? And thank God my senior management doesn't want anything to do with it. They get so many things right. Yep. They did get a lot of things right. That is the exact quote. I no longer agree with that. I don't agree with that, and I can't tell them to take my quote down. So, look, the one thing that they get right, the thing they get right is they wanted to make, they wanted, look, the reason I was so into it is the idea of having a separate infrastructure team and a separate Kubernetes team and having to have the coordination between the infrastructure team and the Kubernetes team is a constant challenge to any company, because often they're not the same team, right? You have the people that, and so like right now we're waiting on our infrastructure team right now to finish up some other stuff. They're fantastic people. I'm not saying they're bad, but we have to constantly wait for them, and then people are pushing us because they want to use our Kubernetes platform and they can't use it because the infrastructure team has got their own deadlines. And then we had this massive week-long outage that was related to something that infrastructure changed in the image, which we ended up trying to debug. And they gave us permissions to like re-image and reboot the endpoints. It was like this whole back and forth between the infrastructure team and the Kubernetes team. And that dynamic, having been really solidly embroiled in that dynamic, is what made me say that about Talos. It's like the thing that I thought they got right was, okay, we're not going to mess with infrastructure at all. Infrastructure is the job of the OS, and we'll make a very Kubernetes specific operating system, Talos, Linux, and we'll let them do all of that, and we can't even touch the thing. That means it can't be hacked. Hacking Kubernetes endpoints was a real big thing at that point too, because we have separate container engines. People are breaking out of the container engines because they're misconfiguring them. They're getting root access to the systems because they're breaking. And Kubernetes and owning Kubernetes clusters was like the number one talk at DEF CON 3 years ago. A lot of that has not changed, and so in that climate, I'm like, okay, Talos makes a lot of sense because number one, you can't hack it. You absolutely cannot hack it, but that also means you can't configure it, you can't change it, you can't update its video drivers, you can't even add video drivers if it doesn't have video drivers. You can't decide what container engine to use. You can't add observability. You can't set up IP tables differently because your infrastructure has some legacy requirement that's really stupid, which ours does. So all of these things seemed on the surface like the right way to go. I don't need, and I don't have access to the host operating system for Kubernetes for the node. And I now completely disagree with that position. I have gone 180 degrees the other way. I think if you don't have access to the system, to the virtualized or otherwise, that you are really in trouble, because how on earth are you going to go check for, monitor for ARP storms or any kind of thing like that you might have to do with a node? I mean, you could obviously inject a node into the network segment to see what else is going on, but not being a system administrator and not having any access to the underlying system at all, except through a SSH port or an MTLS port, is a disaster waiting to happen in terms of operations. Because you're entirely dependent on the person selling you that app. How many times have I spent lots and lots of time only to finally discover that the product that I was being sold, whether it was Java, I found a critical memory error in the JVM in 1998, and they had to fly in somebody from Solaris and Java to confirm that I had found it, and it stopped my Nike shopping cart project in its tracks. Everybody thought I was full of crap until I flew in. We flew in the specialists, and they went, huh. And they took it away, and they said, yeah, we'll work on that. And there's a good thing. My point is that I cannot tell you how many times that large-scale enterprise architecture teams and development teams are constantly in communication with the people providing their vendors, because, this is why the reason we threw Domino out. We have a regular weekly with Elasticsearch, so we can tell them what's not working and what is. You don't have that dynamic if you put all of the control in the vendor's hands. If you put all of the control in the vendor's hands, you are now screwed. You can no longer even help them diagnose the problem. So you're completely dependent on the vendor. And anybody that's been in enterprise architecture long enough knows that is a bad thing. It's a bad thing. You never, ever want to be 100% dependent only on a single vendor. And that's what Cedero and Talos is. I no longer think it's a good idea. In fact, to the point where I actually actively advocate for people to not go that route and to get good with micro VMs and other things like that. In fact, I think it's more important for you to take your Kubernetes people and turn them into infrastructure engineers than it is for you to do the reverse, which is try to get rid of your infrastructure team, which is never going away. You're always going to have an infrastructure team. So you might as well integrate your Kubernetes team into the infrastructure team, which is exactly what we have done. The original team that I was with, they're all gone. They all went on to pursue other interests, or they retired or something. The people who are left, guess what? When we had a critical outage the other time, we were working hand in hand with the infrastructure team. Infrastructure team handed over the keys of the kingdom, gave us root access so we could reboot and build our own images. I mean, and that was solidly an infrastructure, task up to that point. So what's ended up happening is that the Kubernetes team, the cloud native team, has been sort of integrated into the infrastructure team, and we're writing our own Isinga monitors and all this other kind of thing, and they're bringing us into the fold. They're bringing us into the infrastructure team, and they're considering us not really, but more of a subset of the infrastructure team. At least we're with the same powers and abilities and stuff. So, and we've always had root on all these machines because we have to, because we're Kubernetes people and have to do node, which is a good segue into what we're going to do today. But I wanted to set this up because I really want these brainstorming kind of educational review Fridays to include the things that I've learned up to that point, where we're going, what hurdles we're hitting, as kind of a video blog for myself of the position and the technical landscape of where we are. I make no apologies for using highly technical jargon during these times, but those of you who are looking forward to these streams know what I'm talking about, including LBG, who's back. Let's see. A Tesla Kubernetes dashboard incident, but that was just plain stupid. Yeah. I like a lot of people talked about hacking Kubernetes, but I haven't heard one actual incident. I can't confirm or deny that that's a thing. Specifically talking about Kubernetes Linux distro called Talos. Yes. Negative quotes on the page. Yeah. So what are we trying to do, and why does it matter? Being able to spin up a Kubernetes cluster right now, it's not a violation of proprietary, company policy for me to share this with you. Right now, there is a very big project in our company that wants their own cluster, and we're not prepared to give them their own cluster. We built a couple clusters they can use, but we are currently not prepared to just hand them over a cluster. If we were ready for this, which is why I want to do this today. The purpose of what I'm doing today is so that I can understand the different options that we have as a team, because all of us are evaluating different ways to spin up a cluster as fast as possible without using a cloud offering. But that's not on the table. By the way, spinning up a cloud offering like a GCP or whatever, Azure, whatever, that's always going to be the fastest. But in our case, that's not possible. Why? And I'm just going to say one bit about this. On-prem Kubernetes, it's kind of funny actually. So when Kubernetes first started here, it was all about AI. We're going to do Kubernetes and do AI and Kubernetes, doing models in addition to the batch. And that worked for a while. And then the whole movement became, where everything is going to the cloud. So they moved all of these huge AI model jobs to the cloud. And and they're spending all this money and everything. And so as I predicted, actually, I said, you watch, at least 50% of that stuff's going to come back to us. And sure enough, that's what's happening. Because they can't pay the money. It's too freaking expensive to run AI jobs, crunching jobs, data modeling jobs, these massive, massive data jobs in the cloud. It's too freaking expensive. It's like crazy expensive. I don't care how elastic it is. When you're running all, V100 GPUs at max capacity for 48 hours solid, that is not cheap. It's cheaper for you to rent those things for $1,000 a month or whatever they are and run them on-prem. Not to mention that you can change out the drivers and stuff. You can't do that in the cloud. There's a million reasons the cloud doesn't work. My company is so freaking big. They have a very, very posh relationship with NVIDIA, and they get NVIDIA firmware before it gets released to the public. Do you think that they can do any of that stuff in the cloud? No. So that requires on-prem. People, every time I start talking about on-prem, like, why would you do that? That's stupid. Just spin up a cloud, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, they're not fully comprehending the needs of enterprise. And I just want to put that out there. The things that we are doing require not only customized, we even get special releases from Red Hat. We get some of their early stuff too, because we are a big ass company. The kind of company that makes Silicon Valley companies look like little kindergartners in comparison. The companies in Silicon Valley don't have cozy buddy relationships with these big ass vendors, because there's no money in it for them. And I'm just tired of hearing about Silicon Valley companies because everybody thinks that they're the thing to follow and everything. And I'm like, oh, really? Because the companies that are getting shit done at the macro scale have really close relationships with these other big vendors. And that is where the action is. And I'm sick and tired of hearing people say, oh, whatever. So enough of that. A year and a half migrating to the cloud, then we make it back on-prem. That's exactly what's happening. So all of these, this is not me doing this, right? This is a bunch of these, our customers were told, thou shalt go to the cloud. So they put all their stuff on the cloud, and now they're starting to get the bill. And now they're coming back. Now they're coming back and like, is what portion, they're asking it very, officially, what portion of this is possible to do on-prem currently? Would it be possible for us to have our own cluster? Would it be possible for us to integrate our batch processing with microservices that are being fed from the batch models? That's what my platform engineering API that I've been working with my buddy on. He's the leader on it. When I call myself a platform engineer and I'm writing all that SSH integration and all that stuff, that's all to create it so that we can glue together all of our really, really powerful, really cheap back-end processing power with microservices that report usage of the models and allow people to use models in different ways. That is platform engineering. That is the gold place sweet spot for you to be if you want to be in tech. Enabling the linkages and the API and those platforms to be engineered. You are building a platform for application builders to build against, using your legacy and existing systems and abstracting those details away. So that's what I'm doing. And right now the demand, we have more than one person who's coming at us like, hey, we want a cluster. And we're like, okay, give us a second. Give us a second. We'll get you a cluster. You think you would know better to hire good SREs? Yeah. How does the cloud even work? Right. So one last thing before we jump right into this, and then I'm going to actually walk up and take a mild break so my voice can heal. The reason we're doing the on-prem, people ask me all the time, should I learn Kubernetes on-prem or in the cloud? And my answer to that is learn on-prem Kubernetes using kubeadm and read the kubeadm source code, which is what we're going to do. And here's why. One, Kubernetes, when you're building it with kubeadm, requires you to make super important decisions about the dependencies that are required that you do not have to do if you use the cloud. And ingress, CNI, storage class, certificate management, the OAuth authentication, all of that. Every one of those decisions is made for you. You don't get to do those things. They sell you that as an advantage in Google or Azure or wherever because you don't have to think about it, right? But if you're building your own on-prem cluster for lots of reasons I just talked about, you have to know what's the difference between Calico and X. What's Envoy? Why would I need Istio? What is an ingress? Do I need an ingress? Can I use Nginx? Can I get away with it? Can I use this? What storage class do I want? What's a new storage class? You have to know these things. If you don't have those things in place, you can't build an on-prem cluster. Most people that do, and this is why a lot of on-prem people will go buy Red Hat, which is crazy expensive all by itself too. They'll buy OpenShift because it takes care of all these things. They have very specific opinions about, what container engine you use. That's a big one right there. So So these decisions that have to be made at the infrastructure level do not come up when you're doing most Kubernetes training. Any cloud-based training at all is not going to have this. How to set up, how to make a Kubernetes application. That is not what we're talking about here. We will do that, but that is not it. The question is, how do I get Kubernetes to run, and how can I get it into a state where I can actually test things in my own environment so that I can get ready to maintain my production environment and stuff. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually not going to turn music on because I'm just going to leave the live stream up. I'm going to walk away for a bit though, so if you'd like to take a break, when I come back, we are going to jump right into doing this. I feel like this being the first in the series, I don't know if we'll have them be. I'm just going to put them all under upskilling on Friday power ups or whatever, so you can just go find the last one we did, and I'll tag them or whatever. Spent a couple days building nodes with KVM for a cluster. Nice. And by the way, I don't know a lot about this. Put some sound. My aquarium sounds on. I almost would want to put some music that's like you know, nice copyright free, but it never works. Every time I do that, it's always got some sort of copyright. This is going to be a VOD. This VOD will be everywhere. You can watch this anywhere. I'm going to walk away for 5 minutes or so. In fact, I'll do a timer. How about that? You want me to do a timer? I will do a timer for you. Okay. Turn down. I need 5 minutes. Okay. All right. No music. Turn your own music on. You'll enjoy that more. See you in a bit. All right, we'll get going here. So what's next? Let's actually kind of make a game plan for ourselves. Now, when I take notes when I'm doing my learning, there's two places I take the notes. Obviously, in my Zettelkasten, and I put specific notes about specific things that I've learned, and I also put stuff into a central repo that I call lab. And I don't even know if I'm caught up with my commits. Yeah, I am. So I have this like really just complete mess of a. I think it's actually private. I don't know. Let's go check. No, it's public. So mine's public, but it's learning happens in the lab, not the lecture hall. A favorite quote of mine. So this is where I put my testing and learning and stuff. It's this big, messy monorepo. Now that doesn't always work, to tell you the truth, because sometimes you have a problem with, a particular project needing its own GitHub repo, like particularly Go programming. So that doesn't always work. But it is kind of a good place to put the learning you've already done. So I've got some Kubernetes stuff here. So like if I put together a script or something, see, here's the from kubeadm. Actually, I'm kind of interested to see what I did on this already. About 2 years ago, LBG will remember this, but yeah, it's a pretty long quote, a pretty long message here. Really appreciate it. Nice. Managing KVM, preparing for Kubernetes. One entry for the environment, the static pods. So what do you think about such approach? I like static pods, depending on how you're going to do it. We're going to get into that. So, wow, hey, thank you, Tawny Jane. Welcome, Tawny Jane. About such approach that maybe you have some advice on how to do it better. What? The static pods? One entry point for the environment. I mean, look, I don't have any opinions right now about the best way to deploy Kubernetes. One of the reasons that I'm streaming this is because I have some industry experts who are in our community. I'm sorry, I got really sad there for a second because one of our industry experts passed on. And I'm just going to take a moment to remember Chris Nova without crying. I'm sorry to make it sad like that, but I just remembered her. And she was one of the very helpful people that was in this community who rather tragically died several weeks back. Anyway, so that was very random. I'm sorry. I just remember I was thinking about my community and the people who helped me learn, and she came to mind. So anyway, we're in the lab, and we're going to try to learn here and set up Kubernetes from kubeadm. And initially this lab used Vagrant, but I decided to use VMware. This is all changed. So here were but this is good. I'm glad I found these notes because I forgot I had them. Yeah, she died in a rather tragic rock climbing accident. You can read about it all over the internet. But first, this particular lab makes several base assumptions about the approach that are consistent with the tools that I use. Set up a bare metal Linux workstation. WSL2 is fine. How long ago did I write this? Might work with VirtualBox. Damn, this is 2 years old at least. Learn Cloud Init for creating VMs. No. I don't want to do any of this anymore. Learn how to set, but this is totally different now. I'm glad I have it, but I'm gonna throw this away and start over. Yeah, let's just make a line right here. I'm really glad I had this here because this is the notes from the last time I did this. So there's a bunch of decisions you have to make right up front, right? So when you're building a Kubernetes cluster, so I'm gonna actually attempt to do it like this. So what operating system, what host operating system are we going to use? Should we use? I'm going to try to keep the questions reasonably conversational so that you can go through this evaluation for yourself. Um, evolution of technology. Yeah. What host operating system should we use? Uh, we're talking about on-prem. So, uh, is why are we building an on-prem solution, Kubernetes cluster? So I'm going to put this. I'm going to put know why we are building an on-prem Kubernetes cluster. We covered that last hour. I think that's probably good. What host operating system should we use first? Should we use what container engine are we going to use? These are kind of early questions that you need to ask. The storage class and the CNI and all that stuff comes later. Know why we are building upper Kubernetes. So they know why we are not using a turnkey Kubernetes solution like OpenShift. People like to call it OpenShit. I am going to reserve judgment and conversation about that right now. We are not using it because we don't want to pay the money, bottom line. What host operating system should we use? What container engine we use? Those are the two biggest architectural decisions. And we're going to say, let's see, what type of hardware nodes are we going to use? So this is really important. What kind of hardware nodes are we going to use? And that's kind of like the requirement for that job. Are you talking about the AI stuff? I was thinking for a while. I just had a question which bothered me. In advance, I'm really appreciating attention. Preparing nodes with Kubernetes. No. I'm sorry I missed that point earlier. I'm with you. I'm with LBG on that answer. I don't think that's the place to do that. I think if you're going to do that, you should use something like Firecracker. I would script KVM and Ansible, which we're actually going to do. I would script KVM and Ansible. Consider something like KubeSpray, which is just Ansible rules, really. Or, I mean, you can play around with. Look, I'm already going to tell you. I'm going to tell you my biases right away. I am not interested in cluster API at all, because I don't think Kubernetes has any business managing my nodes in terms of like spinning them up and stuff. And not to mention that there is a hi Cyber, that there is actually a dependency on. There's a dependency on it. If you, I don't want to have to spin up a Kubernetes cluster and pick what node it's running on, just so I have an administrative cluster so I can actually spin up hardware that's going to run another Kubernetes cluster. It doesn't make any sense to me. We're on everything. So for the few of you who are still confused by my streaming thing, when I do this kind of content, it goes everywhere. When I do the DJ co-working content, it goes to Kick only. Twitch and Kick. All right, so what container engine are we going to use? What types of hardware nodes are we going to use? So I have to talk to you about this. So hardware, we're going to end up talking the whole time. I know, I'm sorry. But these are really important decisions, and I want to make sure we know where we're going with this, because we made decisions earlier, or last year, or 2 years ago, and those decisions have not held up. So the first decision is, what kind of hardware nodes are we going to have? Do you have any AI requirements for those nodes? Are you going to use GPU feature discovery? And I almost can make a flow chart here, if this, then that. Might have to make me one of those decision tree kind of things. I probably need to do them. In my case, the hardware nodes that I'm going to use are going to have GPUs, and they're going to be doing AI modeling, or they're going to be using the GPU to do AI model processing, where they're going to load a model that's already been crunched. and they're gonna need a GPU. So, and they're going to be able to use it, and we're going to install NVIDIA Feature Discovery, and GPU Discovery, which are these really great Kubernetes applications for giving you more information in way of through annotations and labels about the hardware that you have, and then you can do taints and tolerations, affinity, and all that stuff to get stuff to run on the right thing. What host operating system should we use? I am just going to stick with Ubuntu. A lot of people would pick Red Hat here, and I don't think that's bad. The biggest problem I have with Red Hat right now is if I were to pick Red Hat, I'd have to pick Alma, Rocky, or Cent. And I don't know. I'm on the fence on that decision. GPU nodes? Well, that's one of the reasons I'm asking the question, right? What type of hardware nodes are we going to use? If I'm going to have a GPU node, I know for a fact because we tried to get KVM to work with Swift, and KVM demands full possession of the GPU per VM. It does not have partial pass-through, which VMware has, which we found out because we did it with Swift. He spent 12 hours trying to figure that out, and we learned a lot about how KVM works with GPU. KVM is incapable of sharing a GPU with another virtual machine or the host. It's one or the other. In fact, everybody was telling me the answer was go buy another GPU, and I was like, screw that. Use VMware instead, which does partial GPU pass-through, which worked. It wasn't as fast and performant as I wanted, to end up using a capture card ultimately and doing it on my Mac because Swift does not run under Linux. Stop telling me Linux desktop is just as good as Windows. I don't want to hear it. I have plenty of objective evidence to the contrary. For gaming, what type of hardware nodes do you use? So I mean, this is a big question for me because up until today, I was planning on just spinning up a bunch of KVM nodes. Now I can still add a node that is a hardware node. I think, yeah. I kind of want to write about this. I'm gonna make these into chapter headings. Like OpenShift. Know why we are building an on-prem Kubernetes cluster. What type of hardware nodes are we going to use? The reason I want to write about this because I'm now that we're talking about it, I actually realize I want to have two different types of nodes. I want to have, you know what? I wrote about this. I remember writing about this. I wrote something almost exactly related to this. Yeah, I wrote something about the machine setups. Remember when we did this? We did this already once. We did, what type of nodes do we have? Node off, services, persistent volumes, key cloak login, kind. And by the way, this is why Minikube and kind don't work because they're not real Kubernetes. I mean, that's not true. They are real. They qualify as Kubernetes, but they, for the terms of learning, they are not. They're not as I think. Okay, so what type of hardware is we going to use? We're going to use KVM virtual machines, no GPU, and we're going to do some one or more hardware nodes, virtual machine nodes, one or more hardware nodes with GPU. So, yeah, I agree. Minikube with KVM drivers is pretty damn close. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that because did you see when I was doing all my Keycloak application testing for my OAuth authentication? Minikube with KVM drivers is so good. Oh my God. It is really, really good. Plus you can like SSH right into the machine. So it's in every sense. I I think it's important to put a thumbtack in that statement. Minikube with KVM backing is the absolute best, quick and dirty spin up a Kubernetes engine I've ever experienced. It's so good, and I'm glad to hear LBG agree with that. LBG is one of our most experienced engineers in the Kubernetes space. So yeah. So that I'm glad we made that point. We're gonna do the virtual machine stuff first today, but okay. Why? Let's see. No. Why? And we are not using turnkey solutions. Cost, availability, proprietary lock-in. Lack of customization, drivers, etc. So there's a very solid reason we're not using OpenShift for this. Know why we are building an on-prem Kubernetes cluster. Cost, especially for high GPU utilization. Lack of GPU support in the cloud. That's it. Full training in all aspects of cluster setup, CNI, ingress, storage class, etc. We're gonna have to set up NFS again. Yeah, we have to that whole fight about whether SFFS is any good or not again. I don't want to, but we're gonna have to do it again. We're going to revisit Ceph in 2023 and see if it's worth doing. I've had such radical opinions on both sides of that. What host operating system should we use? Red Hat is more common. Ubuntu is easier to work with. In my opinion, I find it much easier. And that's the bottom line. I don't know about this because how much do I really need to understand the host OS well? So is one of my goals understanding the host OS so that I can debug quirks in the host OS? I made a whole big spiel about how the infrastructure team is kind of grandfathering their Kubernetes team into them, which means that we have to gig with Red Hat. I ran Red Hat on my desktop, on my laptop machine at IBM for 10 years. I created it and RPMs for our computer, for our software and everything. I was very much in the Red Hat ecosystem because the enterprise is very much Red Hat. So, but Red Hat has given us a bunch of trouble lately. I mean, you can't even get this stuff. Alma and Rocky keep going back and forth about who's better, who's going to get defuncted faster. Should I just stick with Fedora and stay with the upstream? Which one is even close to Red Hat? Do I really want to memorize all the Yum stuff and all the Ubuntu stuff? I mean, I know Het Tannis, he's not here right now. Someone shout out Het Tannis, please. I can probably do that. Het Tannis. Het Tannis. Het Tannis is probably in my opinion, he's the best of the Twitch streamers who knows about these questions. And so, yeah. How much would a truck? I really don't want to use Red Hat. I really don't. I don't want to. I hate it. I just don't. It just gets so many things wrong. It doesn't matter though, depending on why we're doing it. Are we doing it because we want to get good? Or are we doing it because we want to have fun and use this stuff? Right? I mean, I have mixed feelings on this. So one of my peers at work who has got a very substantial lab, they use Ubuntu just because it's easier and they don't want to mess with it. They also use microcates, which we are not using. The input is just an implementation detail. I don't agree. No, I don't agree with that. One of the reasons to stick with Red Hat is that there's going to be a lot more Ansible rules that are pre-built for Red Hat. No, Rant, think of the benefits of Ubuntu. They both use systemd. Ansible is a Red Hat technology now. Systemd is a Red Hat technology, even though the guy who invented it is at Microsoft now. I really don't want to use Red Hat, but I am going to use Red Hat. And so then it's like, well, what version of Red Hat? Right? Here's why I'm going to use Red Hat. Number one, I think it's going to play better with Ansible because I think there's going to be a lot more Ansible playbooks. Number two, Red Hat is what my company uses. Currently, Red Hat is more likely to play nice with Ansible since they bought it. Yes, I'm going to use Podman engine. Actually, no, I'm going to use Containerd. Yeah, we're going to use Containerd as our engine. Yeah. No, yeah, the container engine. We're going to get to the container engine next. So, Ranch or some other. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to say. Which Red Hat distro? So I can't get access to the actual Red Hat distro, period. So I have to decide whether I'm going to use Yum. I'm sorry. What am I talking about? Alma, Rocky, Fedora. There's no CentOS anymore. Long-term support, no package bloat. And firewalled out. Oh, SC Linux. This is true. You know what? As much as I freaking hate SC Linux, learning how to deal with it is critical. Has SC Linux, etc. I think the skills learned for Red Hat are going to apply the most. Okay, so I mean, I'm going to make a huge sweeping generalization. Sue me. Red Hat is much more common as the host OS in the enterprise, and Ubuntu and to a lesser degree Alpine are by far the most prominent container OSs, distros, whatever you want to call them. There's no CentOS anymore. I know. There's not. CentOS became... that people keep telling me that the original people for CentOS are on the Rocky team versus Alma. I actually tried Alma 2 years ago and didn't like it, and then I tried Rocky, mostly because of the organization of their images and stuff. So yeah. Making more enterprise-y. We had to make a product based on UB8 minimal. Otherwise, you couldn't list all the repos. Really? Wait, what? We had to make our product... This is important. We had to make our product based on UB8 minimal or another RHEL-based container OS. Otherwise, we couldn't list it in their repos. Really? Are you talking about Quay? This is interesting. This is an interesting decision point. I really want to hear about this. So, you couldn't list anything in the Quay stuff unless it was based on UB8 minimal. Huh. Oh, the Red Hat Marketplace. Okay. So your actual app. You had to get certified. I mean, I forgot about Red Hat Marketplace. Marketplace is a thing. Look, you can hate how proprietary Red Hat is. It doesn't matter. If you're making decisions based on what's going to make you useful to your employer, and if you're building your own company and you're making all the architecture decisions, great, have fun. But I'm not. So my decisions are being molded by what's going to make me a better employee. And here or elsewhere, for this type of business, I'm going to say something else. You're gonna ban that word? That's a very hard thing to not say. Yeah. So the problem is that Red Hat dominates. I'm just gonna say it. Podman blows Docker away. And there was a time you can find video proof of me ranting about how much I hate Podman. I don't feel that way at all anymore, and I'm going to invoke my ability, strong opinions, weakly held, sometimes WEEK, because I have new information and Red Hat has progressed quite a bit. Podman is pretty amazing. The fact that you can run rootless, root is all by itself really amazing. I was once told that Podman was, somebody laughed at me as actually my subject matter expert, that I had to have like a monthly with to make sure I was staying up to speed. And they kept telling me, oh yeah, Podman's the way to go. I'm like, no, it's not. It sucks. And Docker, blah, blah, blah. And then Docker did all their business crap. And I lost all faith in the Docker company. I don't even like using the word Docker. My teammate had to force me to use the word Docker file instead of container file because of searchability. And I was like, damn, you're right. But I didn't want to do it. I want to ban all Docker from my life. I absolutely detest that company more than Red Hat, way more than Red Hat. And I don't want anything to do with them ever again. That's all I have to say about that. I'm going to book my, yeah. Where duplicate rent? That means you're using Creo. You know why I'm not using Cryo? Okay. Cryo, let me show you this. Cryo, we found this out the hard way. Cryo does not allow Podman / Docker to work locally. Now, maybe that's your thing. Maybe you want that. And before somebody says, yes, but you can use the Creo CTL and all that. It's not the same. It is not the same. It is not the same. We actually found, I was all gung-ho on the Run C and the Creo approach. And then I realized that, I actually brought it to the attention of our team. I was like, if we use that, there's no way any of our existing infrastructure team is ever going to be able to use Docker or Podman to locally look at the health of the container engine. They have to use other ways. You have to, with Creo, you have to actually make a pod and do that, and use static pods for everything and stuff. There's no concept of there. I mean, there is a container there, but you can't get to it. Oh, thank you for saying so mental. So what is that? Where does that leave us? Now I did try Docker CE, right? So Docker CE, Community Edition is Docker, and I really don't like Docker. I really don't. Is Docker, and hate is the actual word here. I hate Docker. I hate it. I hate the company. I hate everything they did, everything they've done since. I don't want anything to do with the company ever again. I don't put my registries over there. I don't use stuff over there. I use GitHub, which is cheaper and easier. The GitHub registry is way better. Not to mention the fact that it defaults to private repos versus public, and you can have as many as you want. Why would you ever host a container on Docker ever again? There's really no reason. And there's many, many reasons not to. Docker is really bad. I don't want anything to do with them. There. What about GitLab? We already talked about that. GitLab for hosting stuff. The hosting service on GitLab is not as good as GitHub. I have not recently used it. I've gone back and forth on GitLab versus GitHub over the last 10 years, literally. We're really pushing for GitLab to pull their head out and do things right, and because they innovated so many things on the the figure eight CI/CD kind of framework. There's other videos on it, but ultimately GitHub won, and I'm going to use GitHub for everything for two reasons. GitHub Actions and GitHub GitHub Actions and GitHub, the GitHub command line tool, completely below the GitLab finally came out with an answer. They finally came out apparently this year with a command line tool, but GitHub has had one out for 2 freaking years. And not to mention, I was monitoring growth between the two services, and GitHub was on the order of tens of millions of new things per year versus maybe a million per year at GitLab. GitLab's interface is horrible. GitLab forces you to go through a CloudBot or a CloudWatch thing when you want to connect to it, which forces you to wait around when you connect. It's just absolutely horrible. I can't even deal with it. It was actually Greg, one of our community members, who originally is like complaining to me about GitLab. He's like, "You really like that?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, have you thought about this and this?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." So GitHub has a way better API. GitLab's API is non-existent. I mean, relatively, it's non-existent. I could go on and on and on. In fact, I did. I documented 10 or 12 different reasons why I picked GitHub over GitLab, even though my aversion for the whole Microsoft versus Git, thing. You can hate Microsoft all you want. The fact is Microsoft is very well funded, and yes, they're doing horrible, nefarious things by blocking people from their own Git repos, demanding people do what they want them to do, and stealing all of this open source content and putting it into their chatbots and things. That doesn't matter. They're still the leader when it comes to discoverability and everything. So I have no interest in using GitLab for anything. I have a ton of stuff over there that still has to be ported over to GitHub, but I have not done it. In fact, about the only thing I like about them is that you can customize the icons for your different things, and you can use subdirectories or subprojects. That's really it. Their image integration is not even worth using at this point. GitHub, it's like GitHub saw GitLab do container registries and stuff like that, and they went, "Oh, okay, well, let's try that." And then they added it, and they destroyed them. It's like so much better. So that's it. I'm not talking about Bitbucket at all. Others are locked into better lock-in. You don't think GitLab has hidden lock-ins that are more dangerous. So GitLab depends on its 7,000 contributions from the community every year, and guess what? Last couple of years, the contributions have gone down because people are not so free to contribute. Guess they can't have a product. The reason their product is so slow is because they depend on the contributions from people giving away stuff for free, and GitHub does not depend on that. And there we go. Deja vu. I know. Containerd is still Docker. It kind of is. Containerd is still Docker, but it's maintained completely differently. I already say hi. Containerd is Docker, but maintained differently. So, yeah. You guys are going to get me to make that emote one way or another, aren't you? So, Docker CE, Containerd. Containerd is the one we went with. Why? The bottom line, the Containerd is close enough to Docker CE that you can actually run it and use, if you wanted to, you can install Docker or you can install Podman. It just works. And stuff. Creo is faster. I tried Creo 2 years ago and it was buggy as all get out. It was not ready. And then I tried Creo this year actually, and it was pretty good. But that was when I found out that you couldn't do just regular Docker commands. I was like, hey, I'm good with that, but my place of business was not okay with that. So run C, yeah, just use run C direct. I know that's Creo and run C kind of go together. That's where I was. Okay. Strictly speaking, run C is a part of these other things. So, you know, I mean, that gets really complicated. I don't know if we want to go down that road right now. Since 1.2 or something, you've been using Creo? Nice. So, my decision here again is using containerd primarily because work chose to use it. So they have decided. Now, had I been the only person making the decision, and had we not had, more than a dozen engineers who expect Docker-like access to the container engine on each endpoint, I would be happy to use Creo. But one of the standard, debugging tasks is to get on the endpoint and run, whatever, Podman or Docker or whatever, to list all the containers on the system, all the running processes, what ones are broken, and then, manage them independently. Even though, thank God, people have stopped going over there to use Docker when they don't have it locally, which they were doing for a while. And that's one of the reasons to do this, so that people don't do that, which is an anti-pattern. Okay, so those are some decisions up front. What kind of networking infrastructure are we going to use? What else we got? We got, let me see if I can remind myself. Oh, we're not doing Vagrant. Okay, so how are we going to deploy all this? How are we going to deploy all of this automatically? And there are a lot of options out there, but the quick answer is Ansible plus scripts. That's what we're going to do. And we're not going to use KubeSpray. We're not going to use... KubeSpray is Ansible. We're not going to use cluster API. We're not going to use the other ones. There's a lot of them, right? And we're definitely not going to use Vagrant. So Vagrant, people wondering what Vagrant's about. The only reason I was even using Vagrant before was because I was trying to do all this on my laptop. And that's what led to Fluff and everything, which I still... I don't know. If I could make Fluff into a combination of Ansible scripts that run locally, I might be willing to do that, but we don't know about that. Yeah, KubeSpray lags behind Kubernetes versions quite a bit. I know. You run into the problem a lot in your testing. Yeah. Rancher, I do love Rancher, but Rancher's not... Are you talking about a container engine or as a method of deployment? Your entire team has a lot of resources used. Yeah. CreCTL. Yeah. I don't get why you wouldn't learn a new tool when adopting a new technology. I'm not adopting a new technology. Yeah. So, CreCTL. I don't like CreCTL, but again, if you want to look, so if you're making your own lab, then you might want to get experimental and do that. But my current requirement is to stick with what we know we're going to keep. And even if I don't like some of those things, like I would rather use Ubuntu Server by far. I absolutely love Rancher. It's something I would definitely consider. But at this point, I'm trying to model what is in my enterprise currently and what I believe exists in many other enterprises as well. All of this stuff down here is completely old. Get a cloud new version of Enterprise Linux, preferably Red Hat. This is going to be interesting. All right, so I'm kind of starting down the path of what comes next. All right, so how much time we got? We can only go. I only want to go 3 hours. I only want to go 3 hours. We have 90 minutes left. Okay. Oh, do I have to set up NFS in advance? God, I don't really want to do that. You kind of have to, though. All right, I'm sorry. I'm just regrouping about what's coming up. Install the Kubernetes components, initialize control plane with kubeadm net. Join the worker nodes. I know that stuff. I know. Deploy Calico. We're definitely going to use Calico. We're definitely going to use just a base simple NFS storage class, which somebody's going to complain about. because how old NFS is, I don't want to hear it. NFS is still the standard, and most of the storage solutions use NFS, even though it's an ancient technology. Instead of SSH to log into the control nodes. Okay, we've got that done. All right, so I think we're ready to move on now. So I'm actually going to expand on this blank line here. I'm going to put old stuff. Beware. This is what I was going to do before. I just wanted to remember kind of where my notes were last time. NFS to share volumes, yeah. We're going to use NFS as a storage class. When you build, this is actually one of the hardest parts of this. So you have to have a storage solution available in order to set up a storage class. Otherwise, it'll use the default storage class, which is localhost storage only, which nobody should ever use. There's extremely exceptional cases where you would use that. And so the question I have is, if I have to set that up first, I would actually like to set up a root CA as well. Are we going to set up own root CA? I think it's probably a way to do that. What authentication scheme are we, a strategy are we using for the cluster? And I'm going to be definitely using OAuth 2 user flow only. So we're not going to use client credentials flow. We're going to use client credentials. We have a kind of a weird thing. We're using client credentials for applications and user auth flow with no refresh token, which is really weird. But flow, no refresh token. This is going to be a very awkward, weird authentication mechanism for applications. For users. And why is there no way to differentiate packets in Wireshark? I do not know. We're going to use Keycloak. I already decided this. Keycloak provider. And that's going to be... Keycloak has actually just got added as a project to the cloud native thing. It's a Java thing, but I'm pretty familiar with it, and it's a pretty good way to run on-prem. Secrets. How will secrets be managed? How will enterprise secrets be managed? So we're going to use Vault for this. Vault and Vault controller. We have that working actually now. So that's what we're going to use. Now, Vault does come with its own root CA kind of stuff. Yes, hopefully using Vault. That is Aspect operator, right? Oh, right. Vault Kubernetes operator. Yeah. So this, this is pretty vanilla enterprise, right? So far, it's been pretty vanilla enterprise. And we'll start drawing pictures of it and everything. Yeah, I don't want to have to set up my own scripts to make my own root CA management. We're authenticated strategy for the cluster. Okay, how enterprise secrets be managed. Kubernetes certs managed by Kubernetes. So you can set up Kubernetes to run a separate cert manager and all that, or not, right? We also have to know how we're going to set up etcd. whether we're going to put etcd and build it into the cluster, or we're going to have our own separate etcd with full blown, you know, I don't know how much to make this look exactly like a real, you know, HA solution. In fact, we need to ask that question. How much high availability are we going to model, emulate? So, not Home Assistant, no. So is etcd in the cluster or not? This is a tough question. I definitely want to look at third-party solutions, but we don't have one right now. I think we're using LuxFS. What's it called? Did I say it right? What's it called? Is it Luxor? Storage units, that's not it. Storage, what are the storage class options? The storage class in Kubernetes. Share volumes in about Sephiroth. I haven't tried Porkworks. No. You know what? I need to find out which one we're actually using. Azure Disk. These are all, most of these are provided by the cloud. Circle GP2, Elastic Cloud, Google, Azure File, Ceph RDB, storage class specific to Ceph. Local storage, no. So as I said, there's nothing good. What did I just use? ChatGPT. Yeah, there's a video on that somewhere. So Ceph does RWX. Yeah, it's actually, I'm using, I think, from the, what's the project name? I forget the name. I forget the name of the project. Charm bracelet. Charm bracelet mods. That's what I'm doing. I'm just passing it off to them. I think I'm just using the free thing. I could be paying. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I'm not paying because I'm still getting the old stuff. I'm taking a moment to figure out what our default storage classes at work. So you're gonna you guys have a break. I'll put fishies on. For a second, and go take some time to figure out what Kubernetes storage class you want to use. Because you have to know what storage class you're going to need, because you're going to have to build the infrastructure for the storage class before you install Kubernetes. So those are all prerequisites. So I'm going to try to look up what mine is. We changed ours recently. We were GPFS for a while and we got off of it. And I can't remember what the official name of the new one is. All right, we have. Oh, I guess we still have some of that. Yeah, we have some good old NFS and some DC NAS and get a little bit of GPFS left over. Okay, so About the current pay structure. Those commands are not up to date. I'm just gonna say right now. So, is DCNAS a good Kubernetes storage class? I don't know what ChatGPT thinks about it. It's not up to date, so this will be interesting. Chartblazer does do some good stuff. Yep, I use them for my Markdown rendering and everything. Chartblazer said it's used by the GitHub command line tool as well. That's why it's so pretty. It's one of the few cases where putting web people on the command line is a good thing. I'm not kidding. As to my knowledge, there's no widely recognized Kubernetes storage class called DCNS. Huh. I think this is a specific name. Yeah. I think this is a physical storage class. I think what it is, I think it's a. I don't know the vendor. I don't want to ask at work yet. I will, but this is not my thing. Is I don't normally manage this, but we recently went through. I think what it is, I think it's an actual physical storage solution that has its own storage class integration, and that this actually reminds me. 2 years ago, I was looking at storage solutions that were turnkey. You know, like you buy a disk array, and that provides your storage class. And that is actually a very real way to provide storage for Kubernetes. It's actually one of the more turnkey ways. I wonder if I could get the cost of that down to something reasonable. An alternative, of course, is to use Ceph and turn a bunch of machines that have to have fast enough disk writes, which I bought a bunch of machines that have fast enough disk writes to handle Ceph. And you join those together, and those become a storage solution that then has its own storage class in Kubernetes. So, and that manifests as PVC, which is really complicated. Kubernetes, don't let this stream scare you from Kubernetes. It's got a lot of complexity to it. It's really annoying, actually. But I mean, over time you'll get it. It'll eventually seek in persistent volume. So I'm trying to find. I assume I don't even know. You know what? Let me do a view on this storage class and see if it has some details in the labels. All right. So give me a break here. I mean a second. We have a NetApp. Elasticsearch local storage, which I hate. Storage class is part of the CSI plugin, yeah. Bye. I still have GPFS, but that's legacy. It's absolute shit, by the way. Do not get GPFS. I don't care how much IBM tries to tell you to use it. It's full of shit bugs. NetApp, I know. That's not our biggest storage array, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Hmm. Um, I'm gonna look at one. I don't know. Some of this I'm just gonna. Yeah, there we go. DDN. There's no silver bullet. No, there's not. This is the part where infrastructure engineer overrides cloud native DevOps Kubernetes engineer. And storage web people are using how many on-prem for Kubernetes? No, I don't know. I haven't heard of that option yet. People tend to hate NFS for all the standard reasons. And as an artifact private cloud repo, this is a thing that exists. DDN is a thing that exists. Better, faster, safer DDN storage. Storage at any scale. Storage at a scale simplified, powerful data management solution, data centric AI. AI data growth. I think it's just something we have to pay for. Testing your cloud operations on-prem use Mineo. Interesting. Yeah. All right. So for data-driven innovation, DDN IntelliFlash. This is like these are all physical things. Yeah. Unified flash storage. God, how much does it cost? I'm sure it's not cheap. Hey, Tanajane. Yeah, my emotes are pretty lame, aren't they? My emojis. I know they're horrible. My suitable for work emojis. Those are the only ones anyone made for me, and so I just took them. I am too lazy. Yeah. I need to read about this for a second. Rick can also create HANFS servers. Rook and Ceph, right? All those little flipping off. They're cute little angry people. What, if any, possibilities are that I could actually buy a DDN solution and put it in my house cloud? I'm pretty soon. I'm sure they'll tell me that you're out of your rocker. We're only for enterprise, and it's going to cost you $10,000 to buy a device of SSD to HDD. So I mean, so far they whenever they don't tell you the price, it's like some ridiculous amount. And they're like, "Hey, yeah, I'll sell you all on it," and but this is not for the common person like you. Yeah. You're never going to see HA as Home Assistant. Migrate to AWS in the future without any API changes in the case of personal order. I don't know if I agree with that one. Speak with a DDN expert about how to upload your performance commands at home. Speak to an expert. Are we going to have to call? Can I chat? I just want to chat. 40% reduction of time, GPU utilization. Is there's GPU? I should totally go. This is Ceph Kubernetes operator, yeah. People keep coming back to Ceph for like leveraging existing hardware. Ceph keeps coming up. But another thing I can do is I can just allocate one of those machines to be NFS, and then I have a storage cost. That's okay. So I feel like I've answered the question that I originally set out to answer. Um, so let's see. Did I put storage costs yet? Uh, how will storage be managed? So um so one NFS server. I'm gonna make one NFS server using existing machine. You know why? Because NFS is such a standard storage class. Even if it's not the best, right? Ceph eventually Rook Ceph solution with 3 to 6 machines. And I already have those machines, so the hard part about it when you dedicate a Rook or a Ceph solution is you pretty much need to not use that machine for anything else. They tell you you can, but you really aren't supposed to do that. So if I do that, then I lose 4 of my GPU nodes. So I don't know about that. Yeah. You don't think I'll get HA with what? Around 100 grand per year for 3 arrays. Oh my god. 3 or 4 arrays. Yeah, that's not happening. The truth is I just need to be able to emulate it as close as possible. Which one is that? Which one is that, LBG? NFS subdirectory external provisioner. What is this? NFS subdirectory external provisioner is an automated provisioner that uses your existing and already configured NFS server to support dynamic provisioning Kubernetes above. Yeah. Yeah, this is the one I was thinking of using, something like this. There is a standard NFS provisioner, and I don't know if this is the same one. Oh, this one actually is the one. This looks like this is the source code of the actual NFS provisioner. The problem with NFS, of course, is the same problem NFS always has. Is it's got latency and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that's definitely something to look at. We probably will finish our plan today. How much time we got? We've got another hour and 20 minutes or so. Okay. I might just take a break though. I'm kind of drained out. Yeah. I'm a wimp. I'm tired. I need to get on my bike. We're not going on the bike today, by the way. We are, but we're gonna go watch an art thing. Solve all these problems. Yeah, that's what what's his name? Vera was saying. Remember from way back when? Vera was saying that NFS v4 took care of a lot of the early NFS problems. And yeah, we have an Art Friday today. We have a big one, by the way. Today is they're welcoming 4 new residents into the McCall Center. My wife, it's the first time my wife has been involved with that. And they're going to have a special VIP free booze event right before that. Of course, I'm going to be there. I got to try to not smile, though, because they're going to be really, really rich people there. And they're not going to want a camera around. So have to be really stealthy and everything. We're going to be hanging out with the 0.01% rich people today. And they don't like cameras. As a general rule, the species does not like camera. Okay, back to the task. Filter exactly, culture journalist. I'm a culture journalist with no teeth. I lost my teeth in the war. I left them out to remind me every day of the sacrifice. They'll come back. Okay, anyway, so how will storage be managed? One NFS store. We need at least one. I kind of want to do a rook. The Great Paper War of 2023. Everybody else doesn't know what we're talking about. I have no teeth because I 4 Fridays ago to the day, I knocked my teeth out and left them in the street in Charlotte, North Carolina, and went to the ER, and that's why I'm talking like this. So some of you don't know that, and now you do. Anyway, you found the clip? Oh, God. We're going to make that the sub sound every time somebody subbed. No! The clip on speed now. How will storage be managed? One FS server. All right, so we've got our storage. You know, I'm still drawn to this DDN thing. How much would it cost for me to buy one? If you has to ask, you can't afford it, right? It's one of those things. It's one of those enterprise things. If you have to ask, you can't afford it. But I'm just a tiny little streamer who wants to promote your product. Give me one of your $20,000 DDN SSD drives. I promise I'll say nice things about it. Contact. You know what? Wouldn't it be funny if they gave me one for free because I streamed about it? And I said, yeah, most of the people that are watching my stream are from enterprise. They, we'll run some bootstraps checks on it. I don't even know how much it is. Did you find a product? Okay, here we go. Product. Powerful A3i. Ooh, I like it. The leading parallel file system for AI, HPC, and analytic workloads. I can tell why my company is so into this because it's like DDN. It's data storage for AI. It's got AI in the name. Somebody up way high saw AI like, we need something besides GPFS because it sucks. What else is out there? Let's search for storage and AI. Hit number 1. Hey, let's go to golf and make a deal. You want some free product? I can't say what. Data flow, high performance data management, Insight, IntelliFlash. Really? What a stupid name. Who thought of that name? Simple, scalable, unified enterprise storage for NAS and SAN. Superior performance and efficiency for most advanced applications. What does that even mean? What is it? I mean, can you tell me what that is by reading the description? I can literally buy superior performance and efficiency for most advanced applications. I just have to buy it and magically my application is more performant. That's some amazing magic right there. To emulate NFS by using artifacts volumes. Really, Portiafield? Oh, welcome, Portiafield, by the way. Yet another one of our major experts. You provision PV and PVC with a platform to then emulate NFS. You know what, Portia? I have a question for you on that. I think we talked about this before. There was some, this was 2 years ago. I'm going back far, but there was some conversation about the Ceph protocol being more efficient as a protocol and not being bogged down by the NFS protocol, even version 4 of the NFS protocol. And that the advantage of using some of the storage classes that are associated with Ceph and the other solutions is that they don't have to be indirected through NFS. And yeah, Longhorn's a rancher thing. Yeah. So that's really my question is, I mean, I hear what you're saying and I like it. And in fact, I've heard many people say that a lot of the vendors out there, the first version of a storage class they provide what is this? It's not CNI, it's the other one. But then they provide NFS support because that's what everybody needs. And so people plug their storage solution into Kubernetes using NFS because it's already got it. And then some of these vendors have also gone the extra mile. We're cutting the NFS part out of it, and they're just right. They have a direct storage class kind of thing. Separates files in parallel to all disk in your cluster. Yes. NFS is fine until you call it FLOC. Right. Exactly. I know. That's what I've actually, we've had that problem at work. Yeah, back in the NFS NIS days. Somebody says that Forest gets rid of some of that. I don't think so. Maybe it's FTP with S tier marketing. So when we're choosing a class here, so I already know I'm going to have an NFS provider, and I probably will just use plain old NFS with a simple provider, only because I need to become acquainted with the NFS as a storage provider, and I want to have at least 2 or 3 storage classes available in my little test cluster here, so that I can practice switching between storage classes and see how that affects PVC, etc. Cloud native distributed block storage for Kubernetes. I've heard of Longhorn before. IoT DevOps, I found it hard to blah, blah, blah. Cross cluster discovery. So this is basically you build your own device and put Longhorn on it. Yeah. Okay. That's a very, very cool idea. That's kind of like the SEP idea, right? It's pretty much remove traditional NFS and standardize on a single platform and still provide NFS type function for legacy environment. That's fantastic. Yeah, I would really like to do that as an exercise. My getting back to my immediate demand, which is to support existing systems, I am going to finish this rabbit hole to see if I could actually get a DDN device. The truth be told, once you get a storage class defined, it's not that much practice to test it out, in my opinion. I've got a review request for a PR that I've got to go look at here pretty soon. That's what I just got notified of. NFS is standard. So paying $10,000 for a DDN device just so that I could, say that I have exactly the same storage classes work. That's probably overkill. But I do want to see what the possibility would be. So learn more. IntelliFlash. Why is it called IntelliFlash, by the way? Boost innovation. Attack on my. I want to see the price. Show me the money. Where's the money? Find out more. I don't want to find out more. I want you to tell me how much it costs. It depends. 10K sounds cheap. I know. End of life notices, support portal plans, support plans, professional services, technical support bulletins. Provide all flash storage for mid-range workloads. Massive scalable hybrid storage. I can actually just ask at work and I see what device they have. I bet they have one of these bigger ones. Nothing I can tell from the labels. I'll ask somebody offline on that question. I'm personally, I'm just kind of curious to see which one we've got. It depends. Makes sense. Yeah. Random comment is the only thing I can find at the price. Oh, you found something. You actually found something with the price. Yeah, enterprise stuff, people don't talk about the price. It's like if you have to talk about it, you can't afford it. God, look at how low it is. DDN Teleflash, Western Digital. Oh, DDN is Western Digital under the hood? What? Is this whole thing just Western Digital rebranding? Is Western Digital Western Digital's been around forever? 3 or 4 arrays. I can't believe it. I would think it would be really hilarious if DDN this is just Western Digital with a fancy brand in front. Western Digital through its IntelliFlash arrays. That's exactly what it is. Holy cow. Western Digital's been a pretty trusted brand in drives in the storage space for a very long time, for more than 20 years. So through its IntelliFlash arrays, delivers high-performance storage with a complete range of features, including inline compression, deduplication, snapshots, RAID, VMware, vCenter, multi-protocol for SAN, FC, iSCSI, and NAS, NFS is number 3. IntelliFlash arrays deliver high value through dual redundant hot swappable components, AMLC flash, and proactive cloud-based monitoring. RESTful API provides scripted and programmatic control. Interesting. What? Well, you found a link to how it came to be? This is kind of fun. I appreciate this. Appreciate this. Western Digital. Remember we said you need to spend some time every week like studying like industry stuff? This is one of those things that's worth running down the rabbit hole on. Western Digital announced the sale of IntelliFlash business to DDN. Aha. An intention to exit storage systems. That's their bread and butter. How is Western Digital going to... I mean, they're synonymous with hard drives. Western Digital is not doing hard drives anymore? Or they're not doing systems anymore? Intention to exit. This is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of industry stuff you're supposed to be regularly reading about if you're going to keep up in infrastructure engineering. This kind of stuff is important, especially up here at the architecture level, which consists of the IntelliFlash and ActiveScale businesses. These have got to be systems as opposed to hard drives. The company is exploring strategic options of ActiveScale. These actions will allow Digital to optimize its data center systems. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what they've been better at doing all around. Around its core strategic platform business models, open with OpenFlex. Scaling and accelerating growth opportunities for IntelliFlash and ActiveScale. Additional management focus, blah, blah, blah. Basically, we didn't want to do this anymore. It wasn't making any money, so we're letting someone else do it. By refocusing on our core data center systems resources, our storage platform businesses, we're confident Western Digital portfolio will be better positioned to capture significant opportunities. DDN has deep technical expertise and capabilities. In our performance and scale, I can tell you, telling you that we're running DDN at work is already in a gray area because that's a strategic decision to use it. Telling you that it's like kicking ass and it's doing really well, and it's way better than GPS, that's kind of a free water cooler tip that I would tell you at the pub or something. From what I'm hearing on the grapevine, and I am not directly involved, I did not put it on or anything, it is kicking butt against GPFS. GPFS was a disaster. It took production system down several times, and they abandoned. I was super surprised. They took this long-term contract with IBM, and they just threw it in the trash. They didn't want anything to do with it. So there you go. My initial impression of DDN is really great. The fact that it was originally built by Western Digital says something. Western Digital has been a pretty reputable provider for storage technology and hard drives, not just the ones you put in your gaming rig, for a long time. So the fact that they had it together to get rid of it. Storage appliances, right. Acquired the WD IntelliFlash business unit. So it looks like DDN was already a company in your home NAS. You use Western Digitals, right? Most people do. And I that's why I was wondering. I was for a second said they're getting out of storage. They're getting out of storage systems, not out of storage. So they're still going to be making drives for a long time. Forward-looking statements. It would be foolish for them to stop focusing on drives. That's what they do best. So our data-centric solutions are marketed on G Technology, SanDisk, and WD. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it sounds like DDN is a company that focuses on AI. And that explains the very crazy website that has lots and lots of AI on it. That also explains the sex appeal, the enterprise sex appeal, we'll say, of the DDN storage solutions to companies like mine that are really heavy into AI. So if they can get a company that's already really good with AI that happens to also own a storage solution, that appeals pretty seriously to them. But then on a data profile, parallel file system storage array built on Lustre. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the other name I was looking for. It's built on Lustre FS. And that I've heard talk about that at work that I probably can't repeat a lot of it. Is it Lustre FS? Lustre file system, yeah. Let's go read this. So the Lustre file system is a big deal. And actually, I'm glad we're reading about this because even if we can't get a DDN, which would have the file system built onto the device and everything, we might be able to emulate a device using SEPT with running on the Lustre FS. LL and L are big on Lustre. Yeah, so this is another one of those words that's come across. This is, if you're a technologist, backing up a little bit. If you're in the tech industry, words, will fly across, brands will fly across your radar all the time. And you have to decide, is this worth my time to look at? The word Lustre comes up about once every week or two in our our broader meeting skill. And as an enterprise technologist who really only knows ext3 really well when it comes to file systems, when I used to have to set those up, most Kubernetes people have no idea how to even set up a file system, let alone what one is. And if you're going to be an infrastructure engineer, knowing what advantages are of the different file systems, like could you articulate the difference between Btrfs and ext3, or ext3 versus 2? What's a journal file system do? Why do you care? These are all sysadmin core infrastructure engineer stuff that I did years and years and years ago. I dealt with it every single day. And as a Kubernetes administrator, it doesn't come up as much until things start to go to crap, and then you have to go figure out what's going on. And then if you don't know the core file system underneath, in our case of DDN, that would never be an issue because it's a device, right? So we would call up our very expensive support agreement, and we would have them come do it for us. And all we need to know is that Lustre FS is a thing. We wouldn't have to know how to debug it or interact with it or what its strengths and weaknesses are. So I'm telling you all of this is kind of a rubber duck thing, because as a technologist, one of the things you have to decide constantly is this something I should invest mind share in? Should I spend time understanding this, and to what level? And I've gotten very pedantic about this. I have from like 0 to 10, but more or less 0 to 5, based on a Google interview I had, actually, which is, I think, proprietary. Oh, well. 0 meaning I have no idea what it is. 1 meaning I've heard the name and I can tell you what it is in a sentence, but I have no idea beyond that. 3 means I can kind of articulate how it works and everything, but never actually worked with it. 4, I have a working, yet but not SME level knowledge of the thing. I can be paid to do it. 5 is I am a team leader. I gave conference presentations on it. 6 is I wrote a book about it. 7 is I made it. I made it, more or less. So, and this, I have an activity that I usually do. I encourage people to do. It's like, when these words come across your radar, just write them down in a notebook, and so you don't get panicked, and then kind of give yourself a rank on it, and then come back and evaluate which of these things should I learn, which of these things should I invest my time in. I call it the skill stack method, because that's what you're doing. You're deciding what skills to stack up and how they stack together. It made me. Yeah. I mean, the listing of levels is off. I have it somewhere written down, but go rank themselves as a 10 on Python, and then create around Rails and iterated them. Exactly, that's what I'm trying to tell you. You don't call yourself a 10 at Google unless you made the thing. It's like most people at Google will have a 3 or 4 knowledge of most things, 3 or 4 or 5 knowledge. So I'm a 10. No, 10 is like, no, you made it. Um, so Lustre is a thing, and I want to go look at it. Let's go look at it really quickly here. Oops. Let's follow this link here. Go open that up. And so I'm doing my searching from the command line and then reading on the graphic thing when necessary from the web browser. Welcome to the home of the Lustre file system. One of the things that I immediately want to know about Lustre is what makes it different than ext3, which is the standard file system on all Linux these days, versus something like ZFS, which is also good. Information is Lustre just ZFS on steroids or something. Never trust a man that knows which POSIX syscalls are deprecated. I wish I could say that. I do not know. Submit issue Lustre wiki, release information. Download your own Lustre. Get started with Lustre. The web page is a very fine level of not fancy, which means they actually know what they're doing. Fancier the web page, less they know about what they're doing. Just a thing. It's just a rule. Don't make your web page too fancy. People think you don't know shit. You spend too much time making web pages. One of the best places to start a review, operations manual, the wiki. Plan to all of those, yes. Every time I say that, I always bring up Brian Ford. I always bring up Brian Ford's webpage. Yeah. Brian Ford. This guy invented Peg. We're talking about inventing a thing that Guido van Rossum fanboys over and redid all of Python in because he thought it was so cool. This is his webpage. Brian, I love you, man. If I ever get a chance to meet Brian Ford, I've actually interacted with Brian Ford directly a couple times, asking them what they actually thought of Bitcoin, which I'll say for another stream. He's an absolute brilliant engineer over at MIT. He's given lots of stuff. He invented Peg. He had the courage to take on people like, Chomsky and all the Dragon people who do parsing and I know this is all crap. We have memory now. Let's actually modernize. I just really love him, but I really love showing his webpage because his webpage is like every once in a while he'll do like a significant upgrade on his webpage, and it's not the webpage itself. It's like the things that are on his webpage. It's like his full theses, his PDF papers that have like extensive Latin hieroglyphics of proofs on them, and then it's like his CV. It's like 16-page CV. Do you think he cares about his webpage? No, he does not care. I got no time for my webpage. I'm too busy like revolutionizing software development. Exactly. It's like I'd rather learn, I'd rather make a PDF paper than like any kind of web paper. Anyway, Lustre, what's Lustre? I have reported throughout speeds exceeding 1 terabyte per second. Whereas the web presence, the higher up his ivory tower he lives. It's true. He doesn't need. They don't care. That's actually a quotable. We need to put that. In our quotes. Somebody should put that in our quotes. Lustre architecture, Lustre 101, introductory course on Lustre usage. What? All right, Lustre 101 web-based series developed by Oak Ridge Leadership Computing Facility at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. See, I'm trying to decide if this is worth doing in one of my, get good days. I don't know. Tutorials on how to set up Lustre. System administrators are relatively new to Lustre as well as more experienced admins. 45 minutes of presentation. And the fact that they actually have a presentation that you can go through is pretty damn cool. They didn't have that for ext3. No, we had to suffer through it and trust everybody. Installing, tuning, and monitoring ZFS-based Lustre file system. They keep using the ZFS moniker with Lustre, and I wonder why. From the beginning of Lustre used... Wait. Oh, we got to read this. From the beginning, Lustre used the Linux ext file system as a building block for the backend storage. Aha. As time went on, it became desirable to have a more robust, feature-rich system underlying Lustre. I'm missing something. Isn't ext3 a file system? So was it like an emulation layer between? Because ext is already a file system. So if Lustre's a file system and it's built on the ext file system, doesn't that mean there's two file systems? The ZFS is a combined file system, distributed parallel file system. Aha! It's a distributed parallel file system that's built on top of ext3, which is an isolated, non-parallel, non-distributed file system, right? See, now I'm level 2. If I can describe what makes ZFS and LusterFS, if I can, compare and contrast ZFS, ext3, and Lustre. Well, first of all, Lustre is a distributed parallel file system that depends on the file systems of localized storage classes or storage providers, devices, for it to be implemented. It's implemented on top of those things. In other words, it's more on par with NFS than with ext3. I don't even know if that's true, but I'm working my answer to that question. Lay down on the data block on the Lustre storage nodes. So Lustre storage solution would have metadata and storage servers. Okay. Yo, dog, I heard you like file systems, so I put a file system on top of your file system so you can do data recovery while your data recover. I mean, it sounds a little like NFS, but not. The point is I feel like it's operating in the same space as NFS, even if it doesn't have anything to do with the same protocol. We're getting ready to do a Kubernetes deployment here, and we're just trying to make some architectural decisions about the best things to pick. The sky is not falling yet. No. ZFS is a combined file system, logical volume manager. Oh, damn. Oh, snap. IBM invented logical volume manager. Thank you very much. And I didn't do it, but IBM did. Way before it was landed in Linux, it was running on mainframe, and then AIX. Anybody ever configure logical volumes using SMIDI on AIX before it was ever available for Linux? Raise your hand. There's a few old farts who have done that. And RAID engine with extreme scalability. With Lustre 2.4 and beyond, ZFS adds additional OSD layer to Lustre. Please don't remind me of AIX. We agreed to not talk about it. Which part did you hate the most? The 8 megabyte root partition default size, or the automatic single duplex IP interface configuration? Do you know how many times I've been burned by that crap? Oh God, we won't talk about that. I mean, if you truly administered AIX boxes, you know what I'm talking about. This tutorial focuses on how to configure, install, tune, and monitor ZFS-based Lustre file systems, pointing out some of the difference between ZFS and LDiskFS along the way. Your decrepitude is magnificent. I am pretty decrepit. Parallel file systems are used to achieve high storage performance for multi-tool computing. Yes. Yeah. Sun totally ripped off 80. Yeah, it's still alive for True 64 for ZFS. Did they really? You did AMAC work on Atom too, mostly read on Linux. Yeah. Yeah, me too. But they called you a Unix admin back then. That meant you had to keep AIX, Solaris, and HPUX alive. All words that make certain people shiver. But there's still things. There are still things, I promise you. Anyway, okay, so Lustre can stand aside for a second. My curiosity with Lustre is if I could actually set up a Lustre-based storage class. You know what? Let's just do a random search. What Lustre FS storage class providers exist for Kubernetes? Let's ask ChatGPT first, and then I'll ask the internets while ChatGPT is thinking. While ChatGPT is thinking, I'll go ahead and ask the internets. Oh, ChatGPT came back faster. What? Azure uses Lustre? Azure managed Lustre container. What? It's a CSI. CSI drivers, yeah. ChatGPT is no longer the enemy. ChatGPT is my tentative partner in crime. There is no specific storage class called Lustre FS. Portworx, there you go. Somebody already mentioned Portworx. I've heard of OpenEBS again as well. Gluster FS. We've had a few people using Gluster. I think Gluster actually uses Lustre. Somebody mentioned Gluster. You're outside right now? I have been compromised. What time is it? What time is it? I got to end my stream here pretty soon. Yeah, I'm checking my calendar. Oh, we only have like 20 minutes left, and then we are done. We're going to go play for the rest of the day. Anyway, so let's keep going. I want to finish this up. Do I need... First of all, I can't get a DDN. I mean, that's not happening. There's too much money. Too much money. I don't even want to ask how much they are. Can't do it. So what other storage class provider am I going to have, and do I want to set it up now? The fact of the matter is, I don't have to set it up right now, obviously, right? I'm going to put eventually Rook's FSS with a machine, with 3 machines. Eventually, perhaps a Lustre FS, a Lustre based CNI. CSI, sorry, not NI. That's the network one. So we're just going to do the NFS one, which everybody needs to know how to do anyway. That's probably on the certification exam, and local attached storage, which everybody should do, even though it's horrible. You should never use it unless you're running Elasticsearch, which requires it. GlusterFS blew up here on the low end nodes. I think GlusterFS is the thing that's behind GPFS, but I cannot say for sure on that. What is GPFS? Just so everybody, let's see what ChatGPT has to say. General parallel file system, again, like Lustre, high performance clustered file system built by IBM, parallel computing and data intensive workloads, and it sucks ass. I'm using the mods client from Charm Bracelet. There's videos on it. Offering scalable storage solution through throughput and low latency. GPFS is used in various industries, including scientific research. Blah 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 blah. Don't use it. Don't use it. You've been warned. Don't use it. It's horrible. It's horrible. I have at least 3 years of personal experience watching this thing blow up and having to do critical recovery because of it. Do not use it. Do not use it. Don't use it. I knew it was IBM saying. I wanted to have everybody kind of see. What is GlusterFS? Let's go see what GlusterFS is. GlusterFS is open source distributed file system to scale and network attached storage. Same is kind of the same idea, designed to handle large amounts of data across multiple servers. Aggregate storages and multiple servers. Load balancing, blah, 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 blah. It's commonly used in cloud computing environments, virtualization. A lot of people have been buzzing about GlusterFS, but it's another one of these like Ceph and Rook that people love to hate on too because it blows up, as somebody just mentioned. So I don't know. GPS from working on it on an E-directory company on the nodes. You ran out of inodes again? Oh, Porsche. When somebody like Porsche makes a comment like that, I wish I could give it like 1,000 points so that everybody could see it. Um, Porsche's been very open about their level in architectural decision making within a very, very large, reputable company. And I wish I could tell you, I'm not going to, but when somebody like that chimes in about their experience, I hope you understand how valuable that is. Porsche and I have actually had some pretty good arguments on here too. But I just want to, when you're here during these moments and you have somebody like them chime in, uh, having somebody even talk about that experience at that level is extremely valuable to me, and I hope to everybody else. Um, so I sorry to blow so much smoke up your ass there, Porsche, but for you to say that, just really, the reason I find that so valuable is because it's not just our experience, in our company. As soon as another company can corroborate that they have had an absolute horrible experience at an enterprise scale with a product they paid millions, possibly billions of dollars for, that's like, that's like meta Gartner level consulting, dollar value information. Don't use GPFS if you don't want your company to go into the toilet. Okay? So and I'm trying to make those kinds of guesses about some of these other architectural decisions and design points in my little lab here based on where I think the direction is going to go. And we have had extremely good success with DDN tools. And I can't reproduce that, so I'm trying to find out next closest thing. The only panic they had was when DDN had to drop GPFS support. DDN had to drop it? Did they really? Also nice, you got your IRIX streaming working. You're actually streaming from IRIX? Nice. Nice. I'm so jealous. I am so jealous you got all those like old workstations. That's where the term workstation came from, by the way, everybody. We use the term workstation all the time, but there was a time when a workstation meant a very pretty pastel-looking 1980s kick-ass machine on your desktop. There was a time that's when somebody said workstation, that's what they thought it meant. They thought it meant, IRIX. What was the other ones? Next was one. Silicon Valley, SunOS, Solaris. Yeah. Back when a workstation meant workstation. Yeah. Now workstation just means a place to work. Yeah. Because of IBM, because of the drama. Interesting. Well, that just makes me like DDN even more. It also makes me like my company more. I got to tell you something. We're wrapping up here, but there's one thing. You don't know where I work, and please don't guess. I believe it's inappropriate for me to talk specifically about where I work, especially since I talk in so much detail about the team dynamics and thing. But and you're welcome to do whatever you want. I just don't want to do that. But I got to tell you something. One of the things about this company that I work for right now is they are absolutely not afraid to drop multi-million-dollar, probably billion-dollar contracts like that just because they don't like it or it's not working. The amount of turnover at the highest level that you would think, they dropped Domino like a stone. It was blocking our deployments and they just got rid of him. Just pulled the plug, and they told everybody in the company, get off of them because they're going away. And they did not even, well, we have to support our legacy application. Like, if you got an application using it, you better get it off and you have X number of days. Goodbye. And I got to tell you that you would not know that, and I'm guessing my company, but the fact that my company, and pardon my comparison here, has that much courage to just cut ties and be like, we are done with you. If you're not working for us, we are done and we are never going back. And they did that. They did that with Domino, and they did that with GPS. They went right to IBM to their face and said, bye-bye. I just think that is so cool. If you've been working in enterprise for any amount of time, for a company at that scale to have the courage to just cut an entire vendor right out, with very short timelines, I think it's amazing. I mean, in that sense, my particular company, which is definitely not a small, fast-moving company from Silicon Valley, they act like one of these small companies who can just tell people, to take a highway, and that just gives me a tremendously warm feeling in my heart to know that this company has no problem throwing crap out that does not work. Which I just think is so cool. I think it's just so cool because it's a big company and it's able to operate in that way like a small company. And if it affects some of the internal applications and stuff, everybody in the company is just expected to like regroup and do something else and throw their code away and go do it a different way or whatever. And I gotta tell you, I really love it. I do. I like that part about them. Um, what if they can all? Yeah. It's more operational knowledge than anything else. Yes. It's easy to have courage when they have money. Yeah, and they do. They have so much money that they can just write off stuff like crazy. Uh, for the caprice of an MBA. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think in this case it wasn't capriciousness. In my opinion, I don't think it was. I really don't. I really don't. I mean, they do not. They're the people at that level. First of all, our architects, the people that are making those decisions, are not just pointy hair bosses. They are actually, some of them are technologists, and they are. Yeah, I guess it's one of the things. It is not uncommon for an enterprise to switch in a dime because they read something or their buddy on the golf course said they needed to do it, right? Um, and I'm sure that happens here too. I'm not privy to it if it is happening, but in the case, my perception is that in the cases where stuff was not working and everybody was complaining about it being broken, and they found a new solution to respond to that. That to me is not the whims of an architect as much. It might be, but my perception of it is that it's just really cool. So whatever the reason, I'm glad they did it. What does that mean for me and my little tiny Kubernetes thing? It means very simply that we are not going to decide whether to use Rooker's FFS. We're not going to decide on a CSI. One server is going to decide on other CSI options later. And we'll add them. You have to at least have one CSI option available to do the kubeadm install. And NFS is, of course, the easiest one. I think it actually comes with, I think NFS storage class support is built into the default node kubelet stuff. I'm pretty sure, but I don't know. I think it is. I think it's one of the storage classes that's already available for your lab work. This going to be for it's going to be for my lab, but I wanted to simulate work as much as possible in my case. So, and we'll make a decision about HA next week. This includes etcd and whether you do cert management, how you do your cert management. When you set up a root CA, this is a big thing. We also have to set up our ingress. And we looked at Cube. What is it? Cube. The static. What is the static pod that does the routing? Anyway, we're gonna come back to all that. Yeah, I think NFS is probably the best to start. I mean, if you're learning, obviously, it's good, right? So, so we'll do that, and I'm really glad we did this because I really needed. I know some of you wanted to see the code and you wanted me to get going with that, but I really, really needed to kind of get my head around what things are going to be needed to start doing all this for next week. I am actually at work during co-working time going to be doing a lot of testing with OAuth authentication, and I will be setting up. I'm probably going to end up setting up a Minikube KVM cluster with OAuth authentication without a root CA, so that I can do OAuth group access control to a web server. And so that is something I will be doing. I only mention it at the end of the stream because that's the kind of thing somebody here is going to probably want to see me try to do. That will not be streamed to Twitch. It will not be something that I'm talking about. That will be it'll be whenever I stream, not doing outdoor stuff, but it will probably, the first time I work on it, probably next Monday morning. 11 o'clock, possibly earlier. I am only streaming that work to Kick right now and to Twitter, just because some people watch it over there. The reason for that's because there's music in the background. So if you're wondering where I went and you want to watch the technical things that I'm doing during the day, that's going to be the place to put it. I still put notifications up there, but I do want to put a plug in for that here. If anything that I do that's got DJ'd music on it is going to Kick. It's going to Kick. It's not going to Twitch, because I don't want it to dilute the Twitch content. I want the content on Twitch to be more to the point. It's going to be more interactive, like I'm doing. Kick is more for like the random kind of things like that. So just want to put a plug in for that. If you want to hang around for later, I'm going to go shower and get all cute and everything, and then I'm going to try to be arm candy for my really awesome wife at 4 p.m. Tonight. So from sometime around 4:30 to 10 tonight, we're going to be downtown in Charlotte, living the good life, going, drinking free beer and interviewing artists and meeting the new residents. If you like art, and I mean real art, not a bunch of big boob anime painting people in the art category on Twitch, sorry, I had to say it. Join me for that. We'll be doing that, and we'll be actually interviewing the new artists in residence. And I'm going to be setting up some questions. I'm going to make it kind of like a formal journalism stream. So, and we'll be interviewing people perhaps on the street. I'm actually trying to get my Rode mic working again, so I can actually interview them, like literally interview them, stick a mic in their face. So little plug for that. And that's all for today. When will I be continuing this stuff? This stuff is going to happen every Friday. I am not going to be doing any of my personal lab building. I know that's every week is quite a bit of a distance. I know, BG, you love this stuff. I honestly, if you look at my calendar, I do not have more time for this kind of thing. I'm just too committed to the outdoor streaming and to staying healthy. I've lost 14 kilos at this point since February 4th, and I continue the path toward health. So I am not going to disrupt my outdoor IRL health streams with tech stuff. I apologize to those of you who really got into the stuff I did with the Kubernetes. I really love these kind of streams. That's why I got out of shape, because I loved them so much. So the only time I'm going to promise you that I'm going to do a Kubernetes, cluster stream is going to be Friday afternoon, every Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock as of this moment. And there might be maybe some random days, like it's raining or something, and maybe I'll throw another one in there, right? Tech-wise, though, we do have the beginner boost, which says start tech job. We are learning Go. We're going to do our first Go programming stream on Saturday. We're reading the Outlive book on Sunday, and we also, something, it's the very first time I've ever done this, I'm going to be accepting people's code comment reviews, and I'll be reviewing other people's code. I'll be reviewing, random code out there. I'll also be writing code during that time, but I will not be doing Kubernetes stuff during that time. That's just a time to code and a time to evaluate people's code. There may be a random Kubernetes stream here or there out there, but if you want to watch me doing Kubernetes things, your best bet would be to kind of follow the co-working stuff and just to see what's happening on the screen. But that will never be spoken. I will never be talking during those streams. I'm going to be focused on the keyboard and occasionally checking the chat. So I don't want to create a false expectation there that I'm going to be doing this kind of thing. Obviously, I can't. It just takes me forever to do anything when I talk, obviously. So any voice on the Pomodoro? I'm struggling with procrastination. No. How are you sticking with your plan? I am sticking with it. So far, I've been sticking with... Are you talking about losing the weight? The losing the weight, I'm going to do a whole thing on that. So if you want to... I'll do a separate video on kind of a post-mortem on what I believe I'm doing correctly to lose the weight. People have been asking me a lot of questions. They've been asking me my exact diet. They've been asking me all my decisions. And I will... That's a separate content stream, right? So that is the kind of thing, though, that I don't mind talking about during the outdoor IRL streams, particularly. This whole art stuff tonight is going to be more art focused. Happy to answer those kind of questions. If you want me to answer that kind of conversation live about my personal life and how it's changed because of my, all my different habits and stuff like that. Happy to talk about that during the Outdoor IRL stream. So we're going to go ahead and go raid somebody now. We don't do that normally, but we're going to raid a tech streamer in Science and Tech doing stuff about what we're talking about here. And I don't know who that's going to be. Anybody have any suggestions? I'm happy to take them. But I like keeping it consistent. I like keeping you. Either we're going to raid some party stream, or we're going to raid. I do like to raid music streamers after this. That's always fun. But if there's somebody actually in the Science and Tech category who is doing Kubernetes, I would love to hand you off to them. Chances are that's not happening. It's a very, very, very... Oh, OPSEC's doing stuff. That's cool. They're doing... It's an official stream. That's very cool. You see, if there's any Kubernetes stuff, I'll hand off to that. Otherwise, I'm not. I'm just going to do a DJ. Stop 18 US code conspiracy. Live 3D, new community goal. I don't know what that is. Unboxing, Hyperion. Computer science. I am a child. Building K, there's me. Synchronization, calendar, context. That's cool. Friday and game dev. Learning game dev. Build Friday. This is the hardest part, is finding somebody interesting to... I mean, there's so many interesting people, but I would like to keep it specific. Programming elite champ. Lovim Najivsa. Honeypot or not. That's kind of cool. No. Where's Alt F4 or any of those people who normally stream this kind of stuff? Hack the Box, Booty Tooty. A lot of hackers. I actually wrote about why I can't. I've got a subscription to Hack the Box, and I can't use it. I don't have time. Live with Restream. Explore interactive cyber. Nothing there. Anything in the Science and Tech category? I mean, in the software category that interests you, related to what we're doing? Sometimes some of the, like Purple Elf. I love Purple Elf. See, they're working on Gumroad. There's a lot of coding going on. Coding Garden is actually a really great stream too for coding. Mo Focus, he's pretty funny. He's actually quite a popular streamer. He's got quite the interface for Pomodoro. Somebody was asking about how to manage their time management. I would go follow Mo Focus. He jumped on here and he's like rocketed to the top. He's got like 50, 60 people in there doing Pomodoro stuff, you know. Co-work with UX designer. 30J focus. I'm sorry. Can't find anything here. I know. I'm not gonna say anything bad about people who are just streaming fun stuff. They're just having fun. At least they're streaming, you know. There's not gonna be anything here. Let's just go to a DJ. Do we even have a DJ we can stream? They're not on yet. There's no DJs on yet. No. That's my problem. Is the algorithm is totally confused for me now. It does not know what to show me because I'm like all over the board. Yeah. I don't know. Raid the ducks. No, I can't raid the ducks. I do like the ducks though. I do like them. I don't like raiding them though. It's like a wasted raid. I think it's a wasted raid. Back soon. Another Ubuntu. Browse music. Who do I not know? Maybe we can find somebody new. Oh God. Nobody's on yet. Everybody's asleep. All vinyl 80s. I can't hear it. Wait. Oh, this is great. Let's go raid this guy. The DJs need support too, so I like it. Oh damn, I'm gonna get DMCA'd because of that. That one little thing's going to demonetize me. Oh, hey, wait, there goes Prime. Bun versus Node perf tests. Prime's on. I could go raid him. Nah, let's go raid them. We're going to go raid. Prime just barely got on. I would rate him. He's doing performance tests. That's kind of cool. Start raid. All right, everybody. So, well, again, I'll talk to you in an hour or so. I am going to drive to Charlotte. I'm not going to stream the drive. So you're going to have to wait for me, okay? Don't get mad at me. We're just going to, I'm not going to, it's going to stay safe, and I'm not going to do that, okay? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to stream driving anymore because I just don't want to risk it, and it helps me focus and I get stuff done faster, and it's not as fun. So I'll get down there, I'll get all ready, and then we'll start up the stream. And now that I'm pretty confident starting up remotely, we'll do it that way, okay? So I'll see you in a bit. Bye. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take care of this. I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream.